Can you hear me okay there, Scott?
I can. Hey, good morning.
Hey, good morning. Right on time. Are you always that guy who's on time to sessions and whatnot?
My dad was a Navy veteran. He got us ready 3 hours earlier than we had to be anywhere. I had a job when I was earning money to go to GIT. I was living at his house. I was about 18. I had to be at work at 7. He woke me up at 4 a.m. It was 10 minutes away and everything was ready. I needed a half hour to be 10 minutes early, right? He's
Wow.
a noisy big old presence, and yeah, I'm always early. I don't get high. I don't drink. I'm just not that I was always that way, but just haven't been for a few decades now.
Exactly. Well, we were first connected to talk about the new EP Trouble. When did you actually finish Trouble?
Trouble, I guess we finished it about 4 months ago, maybe 3 or 4 months ago. Final mixes, maybe quite around there, 90 days, 120 days. And we've been leaking out a couple of the, singles and stuff like that. I'm not that by the scheme of like people that are popular. I'm more of an underground popular, but we're trying to, change that. But I have loyal people that follow me. They really are guitar guys, and music has gone very commercial. I think agenda, corporate-y, and but that doesn't mean people don't want to hear somebody just beat up on the guitar, or
Sure.
heavy guitars. And where's all the AC/DC fans? Where's all the the Van Halen fans? They're out there. They
Of
just
course.
You
Of
can't make
course.
them listen to Billie Eilish and go, here, this is your new thing you're listening to. I'm like, I don't think so. I'll just put on Skinnerd.
In your case, you are definitely successful. You are a career musician, but it is, as you said, under the radar in a way. As somebody who comes from the music industry, when an artist I worked with got 1 or 2 songs placed in a movie, that's all they would talk about. In your case, do I have it correct? Over 1,000 placements?
Yeah, and here's how that went though. This is like, I'm not talking because I'm not living in a castle. Okay, I have a nice house, but I'm not living on a castle on that hill. All right, so I've placed a lot of songs, and through working with partnerships with other people, you take your library. I have an extensive library of hundreds and hundreds of songs, but I've had things in like shows like Duck Dynasty and Ice Road Truckers,
Sure.
and those type of things. And then I did a John Larroquette show. Which, do you remember the show Becker with?
Oh yeah, with Ted Danson.
So
Yeah.
CBS did the old John Cleese show Faulty Towers with John Larroquette. It was called Pain,
Yeah.
Payne, and Joe Beth Williams is in it and stuff. And Jonathan Larroquette was my friend, and he's a great musician. John's son. So we ended up doing the show together, and they were going to choose between. They had John Larroquette, 5 Emmys. Ted Danson coming off Cheers, all his Emmys. Who do we choose? Because they both needed millions of dollars to continue, and they went with Ted. They went with Becker. So it could have gone. It was really a struggle with CBS. Which way do we go? They went with Becker. Becker, I was a fan. I watched Becker. I listened to the guitar cues. I'm like, that could have been me. I don't know who did that. They did a great job, but we, so that was just it. Just turned. Like my friend, I got a real good friend in Nashville who launched Garth Brooks. Got the nicest view of any house in Nashville I know, so you could see everything. So what would have happened if you wrote for Dave Winbig? He says, who's that? I said, exactly. You just happened to be writing with this guy that was working in churches, cleaning them and cleaning boots. His name's Garth Brooks, and then you sat down and wrote If Tomorrow Never Comes, and then you guys sold 200 million records.
Right.
So I did a lot of Mattel ads. They were buyouts, they didn't pay the residuals. So they good money, but I mean, you didn't get, I've done a lot of Hot Wheels stuff and, just things like that. Some couple of movies, but nothing big.
But it's steady work. In other words, it's not like you had 2 campaigns and you're sitting at the bar going, I had 1 commercial or I had 2 commercials. Because a lot of people, when you have to do that small talk thing at a cocktail party, at a wedding or whatever, they go, what do you do? And they go, have I heard anything that you've done before? In your case, the answer is yes.
Well, yeah. And here's what I tell people. Okay, so that has shifted. You know, they've really kind of buckled down and went with libraries because we created so much music. So did the other composers. They just edit it now. Like they got the billionaire CEOs and the little guy now. That's what it seems like. But they don't really shoot those out there that much. You don't get them. So I'm focusing on guitar now. I'm focused on live play. This is what I want to do. I'm getting older. If I don't do it now, it's not going to happen, you know. But I tell people this: if you have a kid or a grandkid in the last 25 years and you've had the TV on Saturday morning, I guarantee, I would bet my house, my car, my guitars that you have heard me. There's no way you couldn't have, because the TV was on and I was on every channel. My daughter, when she was little, she would yell, "Dad, there's another one," because she'd hear me compose them. I mean, one day there was 11 on in the morning, 11 different spots on, you know. So Hot Wheels, Barbie, Mycene, you know, McDonald's, you know, whatever. Like, and I'll tell you exactly what happened. Like, I grew up in a very volatile household, lots of alcoholism, drinking, craziness, gunfire, like crazy, right? And my parents got divorced, and my daughter was born years after I quit drinking and doing everything. And I'm sober. I don't hide that from anybody. I'm a sober alcoholic. You know, I just tell people that, and I don't mind saying that because it's been a long time, over 30 years, right? But when I got offered a big tour, and I just got a Hot Wheels ad, and I got offered a big tour, and this is when they were paying a lot of money for it. I mean, it was like $8 or $9 grand a week for this artist, a big artist out of Canada, and he was big in France. He sold 3 million records in France, which would be like Metallica Black Record here, you know, 3 million in France. And then I got this, and I wanted to raise my kid at home. I wanted her to have her dad around, because I got friends that are rock stars, and I look what has happened to their families when they're gone. It just never really, it always was problems. And I had another opportunity. So I made the right choice. I decided to raise my kid at home and be home for my kids. And she always had two parents. She didn't have to look very far to see both of us. And that was why that happened. And it was the right decision. I had some good relationships and got steady work. Again, not the big Barry Manilow Pepsi ad stuff, but just under the radar. You know, if I'm sitting at a restaurant, somebody's having a drink at the bar, and they go, "What do you do?" And I tell, "Oh, you did that one, you did that one, you did that one." And, you know, I wrote the Fox Major League Soccer music, and I think it ran like 12 years. You know, worked on it one weekend, and I just got checks for that from 12 years. It was amazing. And I'm like, watching Fox, the soccer music, a soccer game, this was 20 years ago. And I'm like, oh, cool. I made all these bumpers, 3 seconds, you know, when you watch an NBA game, bitter to bed, no cow. And then you got a 1, a 3, a 5, a 7, a 10, you know, and I'm watching this game. I'm like, all right, you know, soccer's on. I didn't know there were not breaks in soccer. It was like 40 minutes. I'm like, geez, when are they going to play my stuff, you know? And then in the middle, they played like all of it. And then, you know, but I mean, that was a great gig. I mean, it bought a lot of stuff with that, you know?
I cannot add anything to that anecdote right there. One of the reasons I want to talk to you, besides, hey, your EP Trouble is great, you've got all these placements, is that you worked on an album that I talk a lot about called Carnival of Souls by KISS. An album that did not come out right away.
I got your note that you were hold on, my cord carrier, that you were a fan of that. And I also am a fan, because I'm not like a KISS Army guy. You know, I met Gene because he heard a demo that my wife dropped off at A&M Records with a guy, and that guy gave it to Gene. And it's a singer named Ken Tamplin. If you look up Ken,
I know Ken Tamplin.
He's one of the very best friends in the world. And Gene called me at home, and I had some pretty practical, jokey students and friends, and I'm like, you know, who is this? You know, it's Gene, I want to meet you. I'm like, who is it? Come on. And I actually hung up the first time he called back, and he said, I heard a demo. And I'm, what demo? And he said, I was at A&M Records with the band. Oh, I'm like, oh my God, I put it all together. Meet me at the Beverly Glen Deli at 12 o'clock Friday. He just tells us, he didn't, are you available? There was no, are you available?
Right.
And we went there, and there he was. And the first thing he said was, how many KISS albums did you have when you were a kid? And I said, I didn't listen to you guys. And he said, who did you listen? This is at the door before we walked in the deli, right? First question, I said, I listened to Jeff Beck and Johnny Winter and Rory Gallagher, T-Bone Walker. He's like, he goes, Jeff Beck, man, I really like him. Let's eat, he said. So that was part of why Gene and I got along, because people don't know Gene's very, they know he's smart, they know he's a good businessman, but there's a lot more to Gene that people would like if they knew it, and he don't let them know it. He kind of likes to put off that I'm a prick thing,
Yes, yeah. I have to pause it right there. The first time I interviewed him, which was in person, I was so nervous because I was thinking about all those Howard Stern interviews where, I'm rich and I'm doing this business deal. And the second I turned the mic off, he was giving me all sorts of trivia about Jan and Dean and Kim Fowley. And he clearly read every record's liner notes and memorized them. He read every encyclopedia.
Brilliant.
And yeah.
Brilliant. And he used to say to me, he'd say, I'm the hardest working guy, And I'd say, I do, you are. I mean, I learned a lot. I had a record deal that didn't go through, but on a little indie years ago, I didn't have any money. I had leather jacket, long hair, pretty boy, wasn't even 30, and I'm like, they give me a contract, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I called Gene, I go, I got this I don't know what to do. He goes, bring over 2 copies and bring a highlighter. And I go, okay, when? He goes, now, get it done. I'm like, oh, sure, right. This is the Kinko's days, right? I go over there and he gets one. He goes, here, pay attention. He reads it. They could have all of this. It never pans out. Tell him no way, not once. And he went through the whole thing. So I go back to the lawyer, and I'm sitting there, long hair, leather jacket. I'm going through this, and this lawyer says, geez, where'd you learn how to negotiate? And I go, I just read, he goes, oh my God, you're just really good at this. I go, I told him toward the end, I go, Gene help me. He goes, oh, that makes sense, Gene does a lot of charity work that he lets nobody know. And I'll tell you that. And I don't care if he gets mad at me, because I want him to know, because he's hard to work with sometimes. He's pretty stern in business, but as a person and as a friend, there's no better contribution. He's really great guy. We're still in touch via email. Even this week, a veteran wants to meet him that I know, a good friend of mine, and he's on tour, and he gets right back to me. So I'm on tour. Let me connect with you when I get back. So it's like it's immediate like that. Just a great, and the family, I was around like when Nicholas and Sophie was in diapers. She was barely walking, and Nicholas was too. I mean, they were just real super normal. Shannon was like a sweetheart. My wife knew her from doing costuming for her, because that's what she did back then. And they're great. And back Carnival of Souls, dude, Hate is the coolest KISS riff ever, and I wrote it. And Bruce Kulick will tell you, I love what you write, Scott, because it gives me something. Bruce is so good, and I love that line. Eric Singer to me was the best KISS drummer. That was my favorite KISS lineup, and they didn't push it enough. It should have sold 10 million copies, but it barely went gold. I think
it was ahead of its time, but the production is great. It had Toby Wright, who did all those Alice in Chains records, but didn't it come out like 3 years after it was made?
So something weird, and I got like 3 cuts on that. And Gene would start with a title. I want to write a song called Hate. Hey, by the way, you've heard Trouble, right? Did they give you a copy of Trouble?
Yes.
Okay, so that's I developed a lot of my singing from Gene. I am a fan of his singing. I love Gene's voice. And if you listen to Trouble, that's like Gene all day. Like go back and listen to it. Go, oh, Scott was listening to Gene, and kind of that's his
You
vocal.
don't sing "Oh Yeah" enough, but I get the tone.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I get you. It was amazing to like just hear that come together like that for them. Listening to it with the subs and everything, it was cool. You know, we were talking about how badass it was a lot when they were there, because I'd go hang out because I wanted to hang out, you know. And I did on the first one too, and I wrote Spit for Revenge. You know, I was always there because Bob Ezrin.
I didn't realize that you wrote Spit on Revenge.
I did. And I'll tell you a great Hollywood moment from that, because Bob Ezrin is like a genuinely amazing person. He's just a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he was at A&M Records, and he had most of it rented out. And were you around are you in Hollywood, or are you in New York? Like
I'm in New York, but hey, New York, LA, same.
All right, so you remember A&M is like Charlie Chaplin's studio in A&M. Okay, so
yeah,
Bob's got the whole place. He's got the way A&M was. They had a studio, like you could put an orchestra and a choir and
an A room, a B room,
right, and then go across a hall and it's a mirror without all the stuff to mix. But he was like running that place that day. We had something big going on, and I go up to the front. I'm just, long hair, that, the whole thing, and it's the snooty with the nails, not even paying attention, not doing anything. Girl, I don't know why they put her there. Must have been somebody's niece or girlfriend or something. I said, I'm here to see Bob Borbonis, which was my friend that actually introduced me to Gene. Hold on, like really just snooty and kind of rude. And I go, okay. I sat down, and she was blatantly rude, right? Like you're nobody is what she was telling me.
Right.
Bob Ezrin was ruling the day, and he walks by. Now the album had just debuted at number 6 on the Billboard 200, right? He walks through, and he'd been there all day, and they know Bob Ezrin's the king of the day. Give him whatever he wants. And he goes, Scott, and he comes out in front. He gives me a big hug. He goes, oh, I love the record. Your song's my favorite. And this girl has this terrified look on her face. Oh my God, who was I just rude to, And she's like, I'm getting Bob Borbonis. I mean, she was like, kind of jumped too, It was just a great Hollywood moment, You never know who you're treating bad or good.
For sure. So, that harkens back to what I'm talking about. You could walk by the majority of the people on the street and they wouldn't know that they've heard your music over many, many, many times. And is that something that you like the feeling of, or is that just something that you're actually trying to work against at this point in your career?
No, I'll tell you, I like genuine connections any way I can do it. I think, as you're around music, you get it. You love music. So, okay. Sure. So how many times have you had a bad day and you throw something on and it changes it? I realize that what I'm doing here is pretty important for people's mental health, so I don't take it lightly. I love to sign autographs, which I do. I love to help people and be in touch. It's a little weird. I play in this cover band, tribute kind of band in Vegas. It's one of the top bands in Vegas. Like we play Fremont Street. We have a residency. We're on
hence the song Fremont Street that you've got.
Yeah. Actually, that was before I was in this band, ironically. But I got into music because, like I said, I was in the vault. When I got introduced to guitar, it gave me something to focus on rather than all the chaos that was going on in my house. So I never got into it for the chicks or the look at me. And I still love, I already have done a 90-minute, workout this morning, guitar fretboard. I do it every day. I had a couple years ago, I had tonsil cancer.
Yes.
And I had, radiation and chemo. I was pretty beat up, but I would make sure I got an old basset hound named Lucy. She was right there, and my guitar, my timer, and I would practice at least 2 hours every day to keep, because I'm like, if I let my brain go to this, because I had friends that had cancer and died, and I had friends that had cancer then beat it, and they said, it's all about mentally, So I play music for music's sake. I like it because it's musical, which is why I'm on this label. I mean, John Hopen is guitarist. He was a fan. He was hiring me for sessions. I'd go, hey, yeah, you should hear some of my stuff. He didn't know I could write, you know. And then he's like, wow, this is real. We should do something with this. He goes, we ought to try this. He had some other ideas because I don't really need a producer because I produce. And I'm like,
Right.
oh, that's kind of a cool idea, you know, like when you hear like on Devil on Both Shoulders, how it starts out flamingo and then it drifts up and it kind of speeds up and gets into that, you know, that was John that took it that way. And I'm like, what are you, crazy? I go, I'll try it. And I'm like, wow, this really works good, you know? So, but they're music fans. I mean, he started this whole label over, you know, just because he loves music. So, but ironically, like you get people that get in your face and yell at you, woo, you know, and it's like, what other job do people do that in? And give me a pick, give me some drumsticks, you know, like who does it? You don't do, give me your wrench to the guy, the plumber, you know, oh, buddy, you know.
Only fans of Ric Flair, only wrestling does that happen.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, you know, it's a pretty cool job. I mean, it's got its ups and downs for sure. But it's you know, it's put me on like multiple private jets and, you know, 20,000 square foot houses and, you know, all over the world really, but certainly a little bit, and all over the country, a lot. And, you know, you meet really interesting people and it opens doors. Like as soon as people can see that you can put a six stringer in your hand, you got a decent command of it. And I do, you know, it's the one thing I've worked at, and I can bring it, you know, people automatically know you. Like they, you know, and if they get what I'm doing, I can watch somebody watching me play. And if they really understand little nuances, because if I go, you know, big, oh man, he's good, that means nothing, or dive ball, barrel. But if I do some like squeeze a note a certain way and a guy, you know, somebody goes, yeah, I'm like, that guy gets what I'm doing. So we're like friends. We're connected right at that moment, you know. So it's part of our, you know, what they say, 90% of communication is nonverbal. It's really a part of that, you know, and it breaks down all the walls. There's nothing political about playing the guitar. You know, it just, you either like it or you don't. I don't care who you voted for. Check this out. You like this tone, you know, you like the Marshall 800, you know, I don't care who you voted for. Check this out, you know.
Hence why Tom Morello and Ted Nugent are good friends.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You know, I learned that from Elvis years ago. He got confronted by what was then like a right, kind of a far right media. Elvis, and here's how the questions are coming. Elvis, what do you think of these commie draft dodgers? All right. So how does a guy answer that without dropping fans? You know, they're shitty. Okay, there go all your people who don't believe in Vietnam. Or I'm with the drop. Okay, now people that are, you know, what do you do? He says, here's what he said. Hey man, I'm an entertainer. You know, man, I just want the people to be happy. I went, wow, that is the king right there to answer that. That was smart.
Yeah, Dolly Parton follows a similar suit, hence why everyone loves Dolly Parton all these decades later.
I'll tell you about a quick one about Dolly. My wife did costuming at Trashy Lingerie. She worked at Trashy Lingerie in LA, and she did like the nurses for Motley Crue. You know, she did.
Oh yeah,
that Stevie Nicks, like, you know, Madonna, like Kim Basinger, a lot of people, a lot of big ones. Vixen, the Vixen video, that's all my wife did all that. You
Edge
know?
of a Broken Heart.
Yeah, that was her. That's all her look. She put that together and she loves it. Now I'm playing. She gets to dress me up before I go, you know, play, because we do that. But Dolly would come in and she would make up stories. She's really a sweetheart, you know, but she'd make up stories and let her friends sell them, because she said they're gonna make them up anyway. So we'll make them up and let you sell them. And she wouldn't confirm or deny. And she'd get people down payments on houses, car money, stuff like that, because they could go, we saw Dolly with the pills on the, you know, and she'd let it, she wouldn't fight it. She'd just let them write, you know. I'd see the story. She would tell me about it after work, and then I'd see the stories in the store at the checkout. Like, that's the one that she told me Dolly was doing. I thought that was pretty cool. She's like, well, as long as they're going to write it, I might as well get my friends the money. But like her maids and gardeners, you know, pretty cool.
That's like reverse snitching.
Yeah, it's perfect, man. Yeah.
Wow.
I never met her. I never met her, but she's sure.
One day.
Yeah. Yeah.
One day. Well, being mindful of your time here, I'm sure we'll tape a part 2 where we go into depth about Eddie Van Halen. Last thing I'll ask you, related to Eddie Van Halen in a way, is are you going to any of the David Lee Roth finale shows in Vegas?
No. I mean, I love Dave back then. You know, he's became kind of a cartoon character, but I didn't even love going seeing Van Halen live with Sammy. But I saw them early on a couple of times. I saw him multiple times, but Eddie's my idol. I'm not starstruck by very many. I mean, I spent 2 years hanging out with Gene Simmons, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's one of the biggest entities on the planet, you know.
Who discovered Eddie Van Halen?
Yes, and we had many conversations about that. Sit and listen to the thing, and you know, he spoke very highly of Eddie, said he was a real nice kid, and you know, stuff like that. You know, Eddie, to me, it's about, look at what he did to the culture. Look, people are painting their houses like that guitar now. You know, it's amazing. I mean, my wife's a fan of Eddie Van Halen. The band Van Halen and the songs, but of Eddie Van Halen. People loved Eddie. The girls loved Eddie. He was approachable, as far as you know from looking at a picture and watch, but he was cool. He was a badass. I remember when, you know, I had a crush on Valerie Bertinelli when I was a kid, and then she married Eddie, and her brothers were never around when she had the TV shows. And she said as soon as she married Eddie and started dating him, they're all over him, and his friends were there all the time. They didn't care about her. They went, you know. He was amazing. It was a sad day for me, sad day for all of us, you know. And you know, Alex, my wife, got to be good friends with Stina Van Halen, and Alex. Their kids were at the same school as my kid when we were in L.A. And he's a great guy, you know. And you know, I know that he was saddened by that because Eddie had more struggles than him with getting sober and stuff like that. And but man, what an amazing impact on guitar. I mean, everything I do is different because of that guy, you know.
I get it. And you know, people don't even remember right away. That's the Beat It solo right there. So he also crossed over into pop through that. And then there's a couple albums that through Ted Templeman that he played on. Was it a Linda Ronstadt album that he played on? I know.
I'd love to hear that if he did, because she's another client of my wife's. But it's like, what a voice, you know. Paltrocast.